Hi, I'm 𝗀𝗻.
Hi, I'm Larissa.
So in today's episode, we'll have Larissa here, who's a practicing lawyer for 4 years now in General Litigation, who's more inclined to human rights, to discuss on the topic of what exactly does a human rights lawyer do. So as an introduction, could you tell us how exactly did you come into this area of law?
Basically, for me personally, in terms of human rights, I always feel like there needs to be a story in a case that I do. So in human rights, you are literally fighting for people's basic rights, and it's more of people to people. It's not about companies. So basically, that's the passion is for people. Yeah.
Oh, then what inspired you to go into this field? When you went to law school, did you have in mind you wanted to practice human rights, or was it
okay? So as cliche as it sounds, I wanted to change the world, and I was actually deciding between medical or law. It was a very big decision for me because I felt both careers could change the world, your own world. But I felt via law you can make a bigger impact rather than medical. Because medical you can make an impact as well, but law, because policies and people are under the law, so that is exactly why I chose law. That's the first step. And second step, why human rights? Because that is the closest area of practice to make change, because it's based on the constitutional law like in Malaysia. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Usually when a person discusses about the topic of human rights, in your opinion, what should come in mind?
People. Honestly, people. Because human rights, obviously, money is not really there, but you are fighting for values, you are fighting for rights. So that is exactly the first thing that you would come to mind is compassion for people. Yeah.
Oh, so what about in the context of Malaysia? Where does the source of human rights come from, and usually what are the courts that deal with these kind of matters?
So basically, our constitution, our federal constitution, puts in our basic rights, Article 8, Article 5, freedom of religion and all that. And how does it come to court? That depends on what process you're going to use. For example, stateless children, that is the right to citizenship, or the right under Article 14 in our federal constitution. So we go through the process of judicial review. We are reviewing a decision of the government that states that they are not citizens, so we are reviewing that decision. Or you can go through a normal summons where you're asking the court to declare a person a citizen. So it actually depends on what area. Yeah, but you can come into court any court anyhow. Yeah.
So usually it can be the appellate courts or the normal courts.
Of course, you have to start from the bottom. Yeah, from High Court.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So basically, High Court, Court of Appeal, Federal Court. If you win in High Court, good. But then if the other side wants to appeal, then you go to the Court of Appeal. You cannot start suddenly in the middle. You have to start from the lowest court.
Oh, so let's say in the case of statelessness, who will you be going against? The government, is it?
Yeah, we're basically suing the government.
Oh, so let's say if you win the High Court and the government is not pleased with it, they'll appeal to the federal court.
Court of Appeal, yes.
Oh.
So basically, human rights cases, most of the time, the person you are going against is the government.
Oh.
So 𝗧𝗶𝗺𝗲 Malaysia is the defendant.
That's
because
really
it's a basic right under the constitution. So that's why these kind of cases are very big cases. You don't just sue an individual. You do as well, but most of the time it's 𝗧𝗺𝗲 Malaysia is the party that we are suing.
So the defendants will always be the DPPs.
So AG will be the other side, yeah.
I see. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
What area of the human rights do you usually handle cases in?
Basically, the few main areas is statelessness, where children specifically, when they don't have citizenship due to their parents' heritage or whatnot, we fight under Article 14 of the Constitution. Enforced disappearance, I don't know if you're familiar with the 𝗧𝗶𝗺𝗪𝗀 case and Raymond Koh case. It was actually heard in our Human Rights Commission. We were the counsels for the case. So that's one of it. Basically, enforced disappearance is saying that the government or the agent that was involved was a government or the state agents. And then there is freedom of religion, And then there is refugees, so we help them appeal in the UNHCR process. Immigration, yeah, basically that's the crux of it.
Oh, okay. So after having experienced like 4 years of it, like in your opinion, how is the condition of the market like that for employability and saturation and pay wage? Like, because like I said, the general agreement between us youth is that like for you to be a human rights lawyer, usually it's someone who's an experienced, unseasoned litigation lawyer who has a stable income.
Correct. So basically, like what you said, the first thing would not come to your mind after you graduate, I want to do human rights. Because people would think, yes, about money, people would think about the stability and all of that. But employability in terms of firms, so the human rights circle is very small. I know probably most of them because these are the few lawyers who does this area of law. So it's very hard to find new people to come in. Number one, because you are, let's say you go into one of the firms, you are still under someone, and if you only get an agreement with your boss that I want to do a few hours to do these kind of cases, is it okay? Then they're okay. That is initially what my agreement was with one of my bosses here, that I will still do the general litigation, but I also want to do this part of the work. So you have to work very hard to prove yourself that you can balance both sides. If not, they will blame, like, oh, because you're spending so much of time. But if you don't give them a avenue to complain, then you're fine. Yeah, so basically that's it.
Oh, alright. Then usually the cases will be like pro bono and all that.
Yeah, so there are a lot of people who are interested in human rights, but they are stuck because the firms don't allow it or they can't. So you must always have extra time behind your back to actually invest in these kind of cases. Because, like I said again, it's all about passion. If you don't have passion to do this area of law, it won't work. So there are some countries that they actually put it into their hours that pro bono in a week you have to do certain hours. Okay, but then the argument comes in where how is that voluntary when you don't even want to do it? So there's no passion, so you're doing it just for the sake of doing it. But if you do human rights because you want to do, the fact that you're not getting much income out of it will not affect you as much as doing any other work. Because you have the heart to do it, you see value in what you do. Yeah.
Speaking of passion, like in your experience, have you ever met people who like gone into human rights as a facade to like just promote themselves as like to get themselves well known for a while and all that?
Of course, there are people who do that, but the worrying thing about that is when you don't know, because like I said, the human rights world is very small, and to argue certain cases, you need to always work together because you're all on the same team, right? And you're fighting for the same cause, which is those rights. And if someone comes along the way and just suddenly takes up this case and they don't know how to go about it, they don't reach out, then it affects in terms of the precedent that is set in court. So that's very important. Human rights law, in terms of precedent, you know how precedents work, right? The higher courts hold the precedent, you have to abide, the lower courts abide by it. So that is how it affects the whole system of the human rights law. And the problem that we're going through now is to actually get people to jump on human rights cases, that's one. And because the circle of the human rights lawyer are getting old, because it's the same people doing the same thing, you know which area, you already know that's the lawyer, but there's no one going after them, so that's an issue. So like, for example, the enforced disappearance cases that we did in 𝗧𝗶𝗺𝗀, it was very strenuous in terms of getting people to hop on with us, to help us through this, because this was purely pro bono. You have to take time off, and I was working with a lot of students actually to help me, because I was the only constant lawyer there who was doing the cracks of the administrative stuff, rearranging counsels to come in, the research, the drafting and all of that. And a lot of students came in and helped in and out, which was good for their experience. They helped me a lot. But then to actually find an associate who can work it, who will be parked there with me throughout the whole process was very hard.
Oh,
yeah.
That's interesting. So like, usually the students are like student activists, or like, are they mainly from the Are they mainly doing the law degree or are they from other fields as well?
So basically, on my Instagram account, I will always post like if I need human rights, I would probably say there's a human rights area that I need students to help me with, reach out. So people will reach out. Most of them are law students, because I was specifically asked if I want law students specifically, that would be better. But if it's something general that any student can do, then it can be anyone, like a translation, that one anyone can do, right? But for me, when I get a student to come along with me to help me, I don't want them to just be a student who's helping a lawyer. I want them to invest. I would want them to invest in it, draft their own questions, and then I would, even as simple as translation, yes, thank you for the job, but I will sit down with them or email back to them and tell them what could be improved, what could be better. Because again, you don't want people to just help you for the sake of helping you. You want to also, it's all about value. I'm all about value and passion, to always remind people that whatever little that you do, there's value in it, you know? And because I would think if I was younger, I would want someone to do that to me as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I always say there are two kinds of bosses. Bosses who want you to do better than them, who encourage you to do better because I made that mistake, don't do that. Or bosses who want you to suffer as they did. So they'll be like, I went through that, so you should go through that. You know? So you gotta pick who you want to be. Yeah.
Then in your opinion, what boss are you then?
I would think and I would hope that I am the one who would want them to be better than me. Yeah. Of course, you want people to grow. You know, you are always a teacher to someone. Like you can probably teach me how to set up his cameras because I wouldn't know. Even though you're younger, I'll be like, sure, teach me because you always want to learn. And people need to always be willing to teach, knowing that they can actually teach. You know, yeah.
Really like how humble and on a constant learning phase you are in.
Yeah, I mean that's how we learn.
So when you mentioned like you juggle between your general litigation and these human rights cases, how does a day at work sounds like then? Like maybe the good days and the bad days?
Oh, that was okay. So basically when that case came to me, basically my managing partner said, Larissa, are you up for the challenge? Take it up and do this file. Then I was like, okay, sure. I was only like, I think 1 year plus in practice at the time. So literally thrown in the deep end. I was very, of course, afraid and stressed, but at the same time up for the challenge, right? Because at the same time, you also have to prove yourself, unfortunately, as bad as it sounds. So a day at work would probably, you come in, I'll do all my general files, which is under my other boss, finish it all, do it to the best of the team. If I have done that already, then I'll go into the human rights work. Or human rights job only start after working hours. So after 5, I do the human rights work. Then after 5, so the students, maybe some of them will come over, they'll sit with me and they'll work in the conference room. And so we work until quite late, unfortunately, like 1, 2 a.m. It depends on, not always, because I also wouldn't want that. I am all about work-life balance. Really, I'm all about, because I tried no work-life balance and I couldn't survive it. But to each their own. So if it's the day before the trial, then we have to work late because we have a lot of things to still go through and all of that. But if, of course, we prepare enough time and then we are good. So that would be it, yeah, that's the balancing. But now when you're a bit older, you get better at so many things. You get better at multitasking. You can read a document in 1 minute. You can draft an affidavit that took many hours in half an hour because you already know. So it will get better. So as the years go, you get quicker at your work and it will be much easier. So it won't be so stressful. Like I go back very early, so now like
that's nice.
you know, and you have more, and you're given more control over your work. So you can put your time limit. You know, like, okay, today I need to finish this and no one is going to disturb me and I know this is my limit. So that once I'm done, I'm done. I don't like to bring work home. Yeah, I don't really like that, yeah.
Well, speaking from so much experience and like, what have been the milestones of your career then, like the moments that made you feel proud of being a human rights lawyer?
Yeah, so one very, I think, I would say I was very proud of myself because this whole enforced disappearance case, right? I was very young at that time and it was questioning the head of police of Malaysia. And no one was there at the time. Normally we have a senior lawyer to sit with you or to be with you, but no one could come at that time. So I had to do it. And I was so afraid, but then thankfully one of the senior lawyers could make it. So they just sat next to me in case, because you're young, judges tend to like, don't like sometimes when you're young, so they will poke you a bit and like but you got to stand your ground, and prove yourself. I love it when you prove yourself. So I think that was a very good milestone for me because I managed to stand up and I questioned the head of police at the time. Very confidently I felt, and I mean even the senior lawyer next to me said it was a very good job. He didn't have to step in anytime. So I felt that was very good because when you're thrown in the deep end, you have to learn to rise up. You have to learn to swim on your own, and I felt like that whole experience with the 𝗧𝗶𝗺𝗺 inquiry really helped me in confidence, helped me in build up in my own self, that my security, and of course God, I'm a Christian. So like God played a very big part in that. Like he pushed me. I always prayed, God enlarge my territory, enlarge my skill set so I can take up whatever that is in front, and yeah.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.